All right. So this morning we are going to stay in this listing presentation pricing place. This is what I'm finding that most agents are having the most trouble with right now. So we're going to start on page. I got a couple different screens today, so just kind of bear with me because I want to be able to walk you through in a more practical way some of this pricing. Uh-oh, you're seeing my whole thing, aren't you? You don't need to see all my shares. Okay. All right. Is that showing the script book? Okay. Okay, perfect. So here is where we are going to start. Okay. So we're going to go through comps today. And what I want to talk to you about is this one script about how consumers buy anything. Okay. And then we're going to look at an example on how we do this with houses. Okay. So we are on page 37 here. This is in the listing consultation. Okay, here's the seller listing presentation. This is just some tips and tricks to start. And then you're going to tour the home with the homeowner or without. Talks through both ways. Okay, I always toured without. Okay, and I did a listing appointment with someone just recently, and we did it that way as well. And I said, now walk through the house as the buyer. It's a totally different way to look at houses. So if you've never done that before, try to go on a listing appointment and think about, okay, I'm going to step foot into this house as if I'm a buyer's agent and I'm taking buyers through this house. It's a different perspective, but that is the perspective I wanted to see the house as the very first time I walked through it. Okay, so I would encourage them to do some things for me. We'd get situated at the kitchen table. I'd say, fill out this stuff. I'm going to walk through your house real quick and take a look at it. And then when I come back, I'm going to have you tell me everything I might have missed about it and everything you want to make sure that I know. Okay. Now, if they push back on that and say, whoa, 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 we want to walk through, we want to tell you everything. That's awesome. I want to make sure we don't miss anything. However, it's highly advantageous for me to see the house as a buyer and a buyer's agent. So the first time I want to walk through, I want to walk through as if I am the buyer and the buyer's agent. And we do not have you there making sure we don't miss anything. Right? So what I need to do as a list agent is make sure if there are things that you're afraid we're going to miss, those buyer's agents are going to see them when they walk through, and those buyers are. Okay? So that's why I want to walk through that way and put that hat on when I see your house for the first time. Then we're going to talk together and go through it about everything you need to do to get it ready. Okay? So that was always my strategy. Then we're going to sit back down at the table together. Now I've seen their house. I've taken some notes. I know what I'm selling. And then we're going to get into, here's the goals for our meeting today. Okay. So this is on page 37. And once you know your main goals for the meeting, it makes your listing presentation a lot easier. Okay. Because the first is just to reconfirm your motivation to sell, right? Okay, so if you're highly motivated to sell, great, we can move forward. If you're not highly motivated to sell, then we're going to be talking about a plan B or a plan for when you will be highly motivated to sell. Okay, 2, we're going to decide together on a price that will cause it to sell. That's important. Okay, we're going to decide together on a price that will cause it to sell. Okay, and then we'll answer any questions you might have. Decide today if you want to work with me and if I want to take your listing. Does that sound good? Okay, now I want you guys to think about that because this is important, right? We're going to decide today if you think I'm the right person to sell your house and if I think I would like to sell this house. Okay, so you need to go into these listing appointments not just assuming you want this listing all the time, right? There were many times I walked in and was like, I don't want this listing anymore, right? So I never liked to set up the appointments that I'm coming in just assuming I'm your list agent because I may get out there and decide, no, I have no idea how to sell this property, or you want a crazy price that I can't get for you or whatever, right? There might be a lot of reasons that I don't want to list their house. Okay. So that's a mindset I want you all thinking through as you're going on these listing appointments. But then there's a little script for you. If they were like, well, why wouldn't you want to list our house? Right? I thought everyone who came out wants to list our house. Well, no, actually, I don't necessarily. And I'd rather turn you down now than let you down later. Okay. If I can't get what you want out of this property. Okay. So then you're going to reiterate their goals. When we talked, you said your goal was to be in whatever by whatever. Under the assumption that we're going to talk about today, these people are highly motivated. Motivation is not our issue. They are ready, they are willing, and they are able to do whatever it takes to get this property sold. They need it sold. Okay. So then we're going to start with, so I have a few critical questions as we start. Do you really want to sell this house? Their answer would be yes. We absolutely have to sell this house. We've got another house we're going to. We need it done in 30 days. Okay. Do you want to price it where it will sell? Or are you okay to have it sit on the market month after month after month and not sell? Okay. That's an important question to ask them, exactly like that. Okay, so do you really want to sell it? Yes. Okay. And are you willing to choose a price that will cause it to sell? Or are you okay with it sitting on the market month after month after month? Okay. And we kind of say that month after month after month. Okay. Because that's truly the decision they're choosing today. A price to cause it to sell or a price that might sit on the market for a while. Okay. And then I would have sent all my pre-listing information to them, all my marketing stuff. They would know everything I was going to do to market their home, update them weekly and that kind of stuff. And then the third question would be, I guess my question at this point is, do you want me to sell it for you? Okay. So this is going to be the time, guys. If they say, yeah, then stop. Right? Okay, great. Let's sign the paperwork. Okay, so you don't even have to go through the whole rigmarole of everything else. If they're ready to hire you, then great, let's talk. Okay, this would also be the point where they'd say, well, no, we're not quite ready to do that yet. And here's why. We're kind of wanting to know what you're going to do to sell it. We're kind of wanting to know what your price might be, or, right? So they're going to tell you exactly what's holding them up at this time too. Okay, now this entire script should be very conversational. You know, if you've scripted with me before, things are very conversational, right? So you just say, okay, so I just have three quick goals for our meeting. We're going to talk about your motivation to sell. We're going to choose a price together that will cause it to sell. And then we're going to answer any questions you might have and decide today if you want me to sell it for you and if I'm ready to take your listing on and be the one to sell it. Sound good? Okay, so practice that. This is why you have to practice your script so that you can roll through this very conversationally. Okay, and it doesn't sound like you're drilling them. Okay, so then we're going to reiterate their stuff. So they said, no, I'm not ready. Okay, I want to know a little bit more about what you're going to do to sell it and maybe your price. You say, great. Okay, so before I came out, you wanted to be to here by then, right? Where are you going? Has anything changed with those plans? You said you had a place that you were going to move to. It's being built. It's going to close next month. Has anything changed with those plans? It's a huge, important question because a lot of the times they have. Okay, and if you don't ask this question, if you've pre-qualified and you think the motivation is different than when you actually walked in, right, that's going to send you down a different path. Okay, so be sure to ask that question on page 38. Has anything changed with your motivation? Okay, so then let's move on to price. Okay, this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time today, is in this pricing section. Okay, so you should, when you pre-qualified, have an idea of where they think they'd like to list this property. Okay, so when I pre-qualified these people, they said between 475 and 500. Okay, when I looked at the properties, I came in with a 469 to 490 range. Okay, 469 to 490. So I am already knowing I'm going to have to get them more reasonable about their price, right? They're thinking 500. I don't have those numbers, so I got to get them to understand why and what's happening there. Okay. So here is how we're going to talk about the seller pricing strategies. Here's how we're going to choose our strategy on where we want to position your property to get it sold. Okay, here's our strategy. And I like to use the script. Those of you who have been scripting with me for years have heard it a million times. If you're not using it yet, make sure you get to know it because it's a great one. But I use it talking about computers. That's why I learned it the first time. So if anyone, this is the way consumers buy anything in the world. If you were going out and going to buy a computer today and you stopped at Best Buy and they had the exact computer you want for $1,000, you'd be like, boom, it's in my price point. It has exactly what I want. Great. And then you thought, wait, I should check at Target first. So then you go over to Target. You see the exact same computer for $1,000, but this one, now Target is offering you a built-in speaker system and some extra security measures. So which one are you most likely to buy? The one that's priced the same, giving you more value? Yes. Okay. So every consumer is most likely going to choose the one that's priced exactly the same, but you're getting more. Okay. Now let's say I work for a security company. I have so many speakers. I don't know what to do with. I don't want another speaker in my house. Now I'm going to go back to Best Buy and I'm going to what? Expect not to pay $1,000 for this computer. Now I'm going to want to go in and negotiate it lower, or I'm not going to feel like that buy was as great of a buy as I did when I first stopped into Best Buy, right? Okay, you guys all following me? And when you use this, you can use whatever example you want with them. Okay, the computers were really easy for me. It's what I'd practice. Sometimes if I knew I had like a car dealer in there, I'd change it to cars. Okay, you sell cars. Let's talk about that, right? If we have someone that really likes shopping, right, you could say, okay, great, let's talk about sweaters and your perfect sweater and what are you most likely to buy and all that kind of stuff, okay? So you can use it with anything to show them when buyers are buying, they either want the exact same price as something else with more value or they want to pay less for it, okay? So now we're going to walk them through the comps, okay? So let's go here now. Okay, so you have to sell this property 4 different times, right? Because you have to sell it to the agent and the buyer. You have to sell it to the lender. You have to sell it to the appraiser. Agent, buyer, 2. Agent, buyer, appraiser, lender, right? Your first hills you have to get over is the buyer and the agent, right? So the agent's going to know right off the bat if they think it's crazy overpriced, okay? And they will choose not to come in. So our first sign to be able to know that, yes, we are priced right is because agents are scheduling showings. Okay, so the first thing we need to see is showings being scheduled. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've looked at the data for our market, and properties in Hamilton County, which is where this house is that we're going to talk about, are selling in an average of 6 days on the market and with 10 showings. Okay, so what that tells me is that if we are priced absolutely perfectly, we are going to be 6 days on the market and we should see 10 showings, and those should happen really fast. Okay, so that's how we're going to know, but we won't know until we actually hit the market if that's happened or not. Okay, so this is what we're aiming for. Now, let's go look at what kind of price we might want to offer. Okay, now let me see, because I've got my comps and I've got my, I think this is the one we're selling. Okay, so now I know when I looked at the comps, we were 469 to 490, right? 469 to 490. So here's our property we're going to sell. Okay, so let's just look at this for a second. What are some of the things that you would take note of on a property before you've walked in that you might just have the tax records or whatever, right, to know? This is an old BLC sheet. And what I'm going to pay attention to is beds, baths, square footage, right? All this stuff right up here. That's going to be our first determining, are we similar in the property? And then I'm going to look at, are there any special features? Okay, because this is a new construction neighborhood, so special features are going to be like outdoor patio scapes. Do they have a fenced backyard, right? Some of those things are going to make them potentially more valuable than the others. Okay, we don't have any of that here. We just have a simple updated house. It was built in 2023, so everything's fairly updated. Nothing's been changed. Everything's new, kind of builder grade, 3 years old. Cool? What other questions do you have about our subject property? Anything? We can kind of see how the square footage breaks down. Okay. So that's the property we're selling. Now, We've shown them the comps. Okay, the comps are going to tell us what's between 460 and 490, right? We've seen the solds. Okay, now what we want to do is go to the actives. What is currently on the market that we're competing against? Okay, so this is your final gut check of pricing. And this is the process you want to go through with your sellers at the table. Okay, and here's how I recommend it. So I've come in with 4 properties. I got to make sure I got the right ones here. Okay. Oh, nope. Sorry, that's going to show you both of them, but maybe I can just stack it a little. Hold on. Okay. Let me try that again. I was doing something funny with my screens. There we go. Okay. So now let's look at the actives because Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what we know. The buyers are going to go out. They're going to search in their price point. For yours, it's probably going to be 450 to 500, potentially, maybe 475 to 525, depending on really where their value is. So let's go look. If they were going to look and pick up a property in your neighborhood between 450 and 500, here is what we'd compete against. Okay? I don't know what you guys see. Do you see this? The Montfort Drive?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to go back to the top. Sorry, Dan. I'd scrolled all the way through those before I got you guys on. Okay, so Dunhaven Road. Here's our very first one that's on the market. Okay, so they're going to go and they're going to find this property. What's this property look like? And this is so small, and I'm sorry. Let me try to make it a little bigger for you. I don't know why it's so small on mine. Okay, so this property has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, but is a little bit bigger than ours. So what do you think? Do you think we could be priced? Plus, we need to pay attention. It was originally listed for 474. Okay, it's reduced. Now they're at 469. So they've already had to come down $5,000. Okay. So what kind of questions are you going to look at and ask about this property when you are sitting with your sellers and comparing? What we're trying to decide is, can we be priced exactly where this house is and we have more to offer? Or can we be priced a little bit higher because we have more? Or do we need to be priced a little bit lower because we have less? Okay, so what do you guys think?
This one only has 3 bedrooms.
Lower.
Yep, so lower, right?
Yeah.
Everybody agree with that? Okay, awesome. I totally agree. So what we know is we're going to be higher than 469. Boom. Okay, let's go look at this next property. Another thing I always like to look at, everybody, is in the other listings. This is another thing that's important. Look at some of the things they're marketing about the neighborhood as well, right? That's some of the things that you want to pay attention to. Oh, that was a good idea. They've got the pool and the aerial and that kind of stuff. I may want to do that also. Okay, another great reason to watch your actives to see what other people are doing. All right, so we were 2,400 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 full baths. We've got 4 bedrooms here, 2.5 baths, and 3,000 square feet. It's at 474.9, but it has been on the market about 68 days. And what do we know? If it was priced right, it'd be gone in 6.
Yeah, the trouble with this neighborhood is
I
all
know.
these
I
people
knew
bought
someone
it
was
in
going to say.
2022,
Yeah.
and they
Yep.
overpaid, and
I
now
know.
they're underwater here.
It's exactly why I grabbed it, because how many of you are having listing appointments that they're bringing money to closing? I've heard of 2 just in the past 2 weeks. They're bringing money to closing. Yep, you're exactly right, Connie. It's a challenge, right? It's a challenge, especially when you've got these new construction neighborhoods that are only a few years old, right? And people still have to move. Yeah. Okay, so where do we think? Do we think we can be better than this property? Maybe let's look at some of the pictures and stuff on this one. Okay, pretty white throughout, pretty neutral. Looks like vinyl in the entry. We actually have tile in our entry. Let's see what else. Outdoor, they do have a fence and they do have a patio. We just have a small builder patio. We haven't increased ours at all. So we have some stuff inside that might be a little bit better as far as amenities and stuff, and then some stuff outside we don't. Okay. So, what do you think? If you were the seller, where do you think we need to be priced in competition with this property right here? Higher, lower, same?
Lower.
Lower. Okay. So we're still putting them underneath, right? So now we're between the 474, we're under that one, and the 469. Okay. Do you see where we're hitting? We're setting it right there in the middle. Okay. Now, these other ones are higher. Okay. So now we've got this one. Yikes. This is like exactly our house. 2,400 square feet, 4 beds, 3 baths. It's been on the market 40 days, though, at 479.9. So, Mr.
Hey,
Seller, yeah. Go ahead,
Good
James.
question for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, on that at 480 price, sticker price. Sometimes what if they're asking that because that's the break even for them?
Yeah. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So you mean the seller or the other person? Like this other person
The
on the
seller.
market?
The seller
Okay.
is not, the seller's
Okay.
not willing to lower
That's
the
a
price
great
because,
question. Okay. So stay with me.
know,
We'll circle back to that before we get off.
sure.
Okay. So we have a
Okay.
break even, guys. Okay. Let's remember that because you will run into that in these scenarios. Okay. So great question.
Wyoming can't
So,
sell.
okay. So 479. Let's look at the inside. Let's see kind of how it's matching up compared to ours. Very similar to ours. So we don't have all the white finishes. We have some of the other colors. Let's look at our outdoor. It has the planning center. It does have the patio that is a little bit better than ours. So where would we need to be on this one? Lower. Okay. So, or we're going to sit on the market, right? For these 40 days. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about James's. Well, first, let's say any questions on that process. Okay. And have any of you done that with your sellers before and actually walked them through where to lay out their house compared to the others? Okay. So this is the best tool if you have a small thing, right? Like we could be 465, but we could be 475, and where should we go in between there? That's how you're going to be able to tell. Okay, because we need to be right here so that when the buyers are out looking at these 4 properties and ours, what's going to make them want to put the offer on ours first and foremost? Okay. Honestly, in this situation, if they are highly motivated and ready to go and willing to do whatever it takes, which I did say these people were, we may be even going at 465, right? Because we may want to beat all these properties and have 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and be under everything so that they grab ours super fast. Okay. That totally depends on them and their motivation. Okay. Let's go back to James's question because it is a great one and it's a super important one. So the sellers can't go below 475. Okay. So then what? Okay. We've looked at these comps and do we think this listing could sell at 475? Open your chat boxes. Tell me what you think. I want everybody's insight on this. Could we list it and sell at 475?
I think we should give our commission away so they can lower the price.
Connie Hill, I'm going to mute you now. Okay, so now you have a couple things. Nobody answered. Would you feel confident listing this property at 475? See, Megan kind of shaking her head. Me either, guys. I would not. I would say to them, we can try that. And based on the other properties in this neighborhood, we're going to be sitting on the market 40 to 65 days. That's too long. You need to be in your other property in 30 days. So if that's still our goal and 30 days is still our goal, then we're going to have to be priced lower. Okay. But Julie, we can't do that. 475 is our absolute break even. Okay. Then we've got two choices. Number one, the worst thing we can do is put your house on the market and let it sit at an overprice, because then, just like these other ones, the days on the market are ticking up and your value is just decreasing. Okay. So what I would rather do is either hold off and wait for the market to catch up where you can get out whole, or you have to be willing to bring money to closing to get the house sold quicker. Okay. And then it becomes a conversation of carrying costs. Okay. So I had this conversation with someone just last week too. We could list it right now for $465 and get it sold. That means you'd bring $10,000 to the table. Okay. $10,000 to the table. Is that possible? Yes or no? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We don't know. They're going to have to tell you that. If it is possible, then we could say, okay, great. And I don't want to give your $10,000 away. So why don't we try it at $475 for 3 days? We know it'll take 6 days and 10 showings to get an offer on this property. So 3 days. If we do not have showings, at least 5 showings in 3 days, we're going to reduce that price immediately to $465. Okay. And you get them to agree to that right away. James, back to your question, if they truly can't, they do not have the money, you may have to look at a different situation. They may need to look at renting it until the market can catch up, or they may need to hold on to it until the market could catch up. That may be another year. Okay, so your other option is hold this property for a year, and how much is it going to cost you to carry this property for another 12 months? Probably more than $10,000. That's why that conversation is important. So you can either bring $10,000 now, which would suck, and I hate it, and I don't want you to have to do that, but this is what the market is potentially telling us is happening right now. Or you could carry it for another year. That's going to cost you maybe $30,000 at least, maybe $40,000. So you can put another $40,000 in carrying this house and then still get out whole at $475 in a year. Okay. Did you see how I did that, James?
I asked that question because, yeah, I did. I asked that question because we had to move many moons ago, and the appraisal wasn't matching up with the asking price or what we owed. So the carrying cost was almost 20 grand.
Okay.
If I had not went in a whole different direction, I got a personal loan, paid it off. We left with a zero balance and then started over in a new location. Mm-hmm. So yeah, because the carrying
that's a whole different situation.
Than the loan itself.
Yeah. Well, and that's an appraisal versus
Yeah, association, having the grass cut, utilities on,
right.
risk of someone vandalizing the home.
Absolutely.
So you got to outweigh. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you look at the expireds too when you do this?
Well, it depends.
Say again?
So, yeah, in a neighborhood like this, potentially, because she said, do you look at expireds also?
Yeah,
so, you look at everything. Yeah.
Just in the last
guys,
year,
and in 2 seconds, boom, you show that, right? So, you could be one of those expireds, or do we want to sell? Okay, and we want to sell. So, that's another thing that I didn't take overpriced listings. Because I don't want expired listings, right? So then I would say, well, there are lots of agents that are willing to kind of hold your house for 6 months and let it expire. I'm not one of those. So, yes. So look at absolutely everything you need. Make sure you're using those actives as a piece of it at the table to walk them through how theirs lays out. It gives them a lot of clarity on where they're positioned in the market and where they're positioned to sell. All right. And I will see you guys next week. We're at July already, and we are finishing our second half of the year. So be ready for that. All right. Go get your listings priced well, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.